Hey y'all, it's Rose's Randoms and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about and reviewing episodes 3 and 4 of Cassandra on Netflix. So let's get right on into this. So the last episode we left off with Samira slash Sam being in the bathtub and Cassandra coming over her and pretty much threatening her, saying like, this is my family, right? And threatening to murder Sam or whatever, right? And so we left off that episode not really knowing whether this was a dream or this is something that is actually happening, because we know what Cassandra is capable of. So episode 3 actually opens, and this is something that actually did happen, right? And so while David is in the room with Juno reading to her, Cassandra comes over the TV monitor in Juno's room and she's like, oh my God, Sam is having a panic attack in the bathtub. She's having a panic attack, knowing damn well what she just did. This robot is so manipulative. So, David goes in there and, Sam is like, she threatened to murder me. She threatened to murder me. And Cassandra is pretty much trying to defend herself. And this is where I'm like, okay, maybe David has some type of redemption, because David pretty much tells Cassandra to shut up. But no, because a few seconds later, Sam is like, you have to believe me. And David's like, yes, I believe you. And he does one of those things where it's like, oh, I believe that a therapist would help. So we're back at square one with David. Anywho, the robot and all the TV monitors do end up getting shut off for Samira's sanity. And we go back to 1971. And this is where Cassandra pretty much tried to convince her husband to get the coaches to let their son play. And, their son plays. We know he sucks. We already see this coming. Horst, he walks out because his son sucks and he's a terrible father. And instead of staying there to encourage his son or whatever, find out what his son wants to do other than soccer, he leaves because he sucks. And so after, the match, the son is sitting there and, he's all distraught. He's unhappy. He sucks at soccer. He doesn't want to play soccer. Cassandra walks over to him. And, also it's very apparent that his teammates are upset that he pretty much caused them to lose the game. And so while she's talking to her son, some other teammates come over to him and they're like inviting him to go out, to come over to have a drink, to drink and stuff. And like, Cassandra's like, oh yeah, go ahead, go. And he does not want to go, but she's like, go. And I don't know what the drinking age is in Germany. It's probably younger than the United States. I'm assuming that their son is probably 18 or something. I don't know. But still, it's like for a parent to be like, yeah, go ahead, go drink. It's like, even if you want your son to gain some friends, like, is that really the way? Especially if he's clearly upset. He needs his parent. He needs some type of comfort. He doesn't need you to be encouraging him to go drink with players who it's so obviously are upset with him for losing the game, And so they walk away, the other boys, they walk away. And Cassandra is like talking to him, telling him, trying to convince him to go. And eventually, I guess she kind of does convince him. He's reluctant. And so she calls after them and she's like, oh, he's coming. And the boys like turn around, and like when they turn back to each other, they kind of give each other like this smirk. So we already know that this is not going to end well. This is going to end badly for Peter. I believe the son's name is Peter. I could be wrong. I think his name is Peter though. So yeah. So back at home, Cass calls the lab where her husband works, and the secretary answers and tells her, yeah, he's not here. He left some time ago. Cass is like, okay, yeah, he probably went to do some errands, and she knows damn well her husband is cheating on her. And so she's preparing to leave when she hears screeching coming up in her driveway, and she looks out, and it's the boys shoving Peter out of the car, because of course we knew that they only invited him there to bully him. She finds him, runs outside to him, and he's beat up pretty bad. She takes him in, consoles him, tries to clean him up in the bathtub, and she tells him, you know, it's gonna be okay. We cannot tell your father though. And he's looking at her like, yo, what the hell? Right? I mean, like, I look at her like, what the hell too? Because even though Horst is pretty terrible of a person, right? We haven't yet seen Horst physically abuse Peter, and I'm sure he would want to know if someone was being like terrible to his son. I mean, maybe he would probably not defend him. Maybe he would like tell his son it's his fault. He's not strong enough as a man, but it's like still, you know, it's like you're, as a parent, you're thinking, yeah, we can't tell your father. But I guess I get it, because she's probably thinking, I don't know what he would do. So we come back to the present, and David is writing his book, and Cassandra is watching him write his book. And then she's like he's having writer's block, and so she suggests that she spitball ideas to him. And then like he's like, oh, like what would you can't help me, like you don't even know like my books, my writing style, whatever he says. And she's like, oh, but I've read all of your books. And then he's like sort of enamored by this, because he's like, oh, not even my wife has read all of my books, and even when she's read all of my books, it really wasn't because she wanted to, or something like that, he says. And it's just like, I don't know why you're telling this thing all of this, and why you're enamored. Like, she's a robot. Why are you so like, oh my God, you read my book? Like, how desperate for attention. Anyway. And so, yeah. And so like she ends up spitballing ideas for him. And as she's doing this, it's clear that she is into this man. She wants this man for herself. So a little bit later on, Sam is in therapy. I'm assuming she was in therapy while he was writing his book as well. And David is swimming in the pool. Again, Cassandra is on the TV monitor. She can see him swimming in the pool. And he gets out of the pool butt naked and asks Cassandra to go grab him a towel. And Cassandra is looking at him like, oh my God, like, all in this sexual way. And I'm like, lady, robot lady, this is absolutely ridiculous at this point. So anyways, she goes to grab the towel for him, and Samira is, Samira just came in, and she sees Samira, and she pokes her head out of the linen closet, I guess. And she's like, oh, I see you've been avoiding me since your last panic attack. And it's just the two of them. So the two of them pretty much know what's going on at this point. And so Samira knows, like, she's trying to get under her skin. So she just grabs her keys and walks away. She does not engage. And so Cassandra brings the towel back to David. And and David like kind of notices that she's staring at him, but he doesn't really acknowledge, like, I guess he brushes it off, or he probably thinks, oh yeah, like she's not really staring at me because she's a robot. And again, it's like, I don't know, like, why they make men in these movies seem so dumb. Like, I know, like, in general, women tend to be more observant when it comes to certain things, but men are not totally oblivious, So it's just a little bit odd that, like, they make him so stupid. It's just very annoying. And so, he walks away from her, and then she looks at her hands because she's like, realizing, like, she can't do anything, right? She's not a human being. He'd never want her. So another day goes by, and, Sam comes in, Cassandra is there, and she starts telling Cassandra off like, yo, this is my family, you're a robot, you can't leave the house, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, girl, you saw a photo of Cassandra outside, standing by a car crash. I don't know why you're talking about she can't leave the house. You know she could leave the house. So you're making these bold claims, and you know what she's been threatening, and you suspect her of having done something. So why exactly are we threatening this robot and being so bold with this? We don't know exactly what she's capable of, how far she could go. So it's a little odd that she's doing all of this. So later on, Sam is in the room with Juno and they're practicing singing or whatever the hell they're doing. And, you know, Sam says to Juno, hey, like maybe we could just go like on a vacation to get away. And I'm assuming she does this to get under Cassandra's skin because Cassandra is listening. And because why on earth would you mention that to your child first and not your husband? And so Cassandra hears this and she's like, oh, but I'm going to be all alone. And like Juno, surprisingly, she's like, oh, it'll just be for a few days. You'll be okay. And I'm like, oh, this is out of character for you, Juno. Like, good for you being smart and not like giving in to this, to Cassandra. And so a little bit later on, Finn walks into the room and he has a bruised lip because earlier in the episode, Steve had actually punched Finn in his face because they were getting close to each other. And then another dude walked into the locker room. And so Steve got, scared and he was like, oh, what are you doing? And punched him in the face to make it look like nothing was about to happen or to make it look like Finn was coming on to him. So Finn leaves the room and so Sam goes after him to check on him. And so while Sam is gone, Cassandra says to Juno, who's been singing and practicing for this part in this musical at her school, she tells Juno that I know a surefire way that you're going to get that part in the play. And then she tells her that what she needs to get is underneath her mother's bed. She doesn't say her parents' bed. She says her mother's bed. And I just feel like this is another way for her to try and incriminate the mom. So back in 1971, Cassandra is at Peter's school talking to the teacher because clearly Peter has been severely affected by what happened to him with those boys and then bullying him. And so while she's in the room talking to Peter's teacher, Peter is in the hallway and those same boys come up to him and they start bullying him again. And so a little bit later on, we're at Cassandra's home and Cassandra is calling for Peter. She's like, Peter, Peter, Peter. And then when she finds Peter is standing in the living room or the kitchen and he's just covered in blood. And so that's something I didn't expect. I didn't know he was going to do something. I'm not sure what I thought was going to happen, but I didn't think that he was going to do something. I just guess my brain just wasn't there because I feel like that's something that you can predict. But yeah, he's covered in blood. So we know that he definitely did something to those boys. So back in the present, Steve comes over to apologize to Finn, but Finn is not having it. He's like, he doesn't want to let Steve in. Or like he does let Steve in, but then he tells Steve to like leave. And so Steve does leave. And as he's walking out, Cassandra follows him and she has her knife hand out as she's following him. So we could only assume that she's going to try and do something to Steve. And I'm assuming that he's going to disappear. In the meantime, as this is happening, Sam finds a picture of Cassandra with a pregnant belly and her son is lying on top of her pregnant belly. So we know that it's not her son and that she definitely was pregnant with another child. So Sam asks her, oh, did you have another child? And the system just goes completely haywire and Cassandra shuts off. Back in 1971, Cassandra takes all of her son's clothes. She throws it in the fire. She drives over to the house that, all the boys were killed at, that her son shot the boys. And she goes up to each and every one of them and pulls out the bullets from each of their bodies. And then she smokes a cigarette, sets the house on fire, and she drives back to her house. She wipes the gun off and she places it in a box underneath her bed. And that is more than likely what she told Juno to take under the bed. So she has told Juno to take a gun to school. And the thing is like, I don't know if she realizes that it's like you're also incriminating David in this, if this is like she gets in trouble and actually goes through with it, not just Sam. But we go in the present, the system powers back on. Cassandra acts like she doesn't know what Sam just asked her. And we cut to Juno's auditions where it's her turn and she pulls out the gun. And she shoots the gun because we hear glass breaking and we hear screaming. And then that is the end of episode 3. And so obviously in episode 4, I'm sure there's going to be some type of repercussions for Juno, for the parents. I'm a little bit anxious because I'm like, with stuff like this, I always get a little bit annoyed because I'm like, who is thinking logically here? Like, because I know that David is going to somehow blame Sam for this, or something is going to happen. And so it's just like, oh my God. So anyways, yeah, that's the end of episode 3. The next video will be on episode 4. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you've watched this show, please tell me your thoughts on episode 3. And if you haven't watched this show, please tell me what you think about this train of events that's happened in episode 3. So yeah, guys, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.